the old saint who was revered by non-Jews. The miller took Zachariah Yerucham around and showed him the houses where the colonists used to live, especially pointing out the house of the old saint, the name which the peasants had given to the founder of the colony, Zachariah Yerucham, after whom the Eli of Nemirov was called. These houses were already old and tumble down, and other people now lived in them. Only the house of the old saint remained empty. It was a whitewashed house with a big garden. The villagers still talked with awe about the old Zachariah Yerucham, saying that when he lived in the village, no mother, woman, or beast lost her young. And whenever people fell sick, the old saint always brought about their recovery by giving them bread and water, talking to them, and telling them to be good and honest, and to put their faith in the Almighty. During the 4 years he stayed in the village, theft and robbery ceased. At the beginning, there were still some thefts. Some peasants stole a sheep and a calf from the stable of a Jew, and also a cow and a horse from the stable of a non-Jew. Suspicion fell upon two brothers who lived in the village and had two brothers in the adjoining village. They were interrogated, but swore they were innocent. As no proof could be brought against them, they were allowed to go free. Barely a month had passed when one of the suspected brothers suddenly died. Another month passed, and one of the brothers in the next village, chopping wood in the forest, was struck by a falling tree and broke his back. A third brother was crossing a frozen lake during the winter, and when the ice cracked beneath him, he was drowned. Everyone felt the brothers had lost their lives because they were guilty and were punished for disobeying the old saint. The fourth brother denied vehemently that he had anything to do with the thefts, but he knew about them. As he fell ill, he sent word to the old saint and begged him to do something so he would not die. Zachariah Yerucham told him that if indeed he was innocent of the thefts, then he would not die within the year as had his brothers before him. But as he had kept quiet about the crimes, he would in any case remain an invalid all his life. The old man advised him to refund the amount of the thefts, then he might be cured of his sickness. But this the peasant did not want to do, and so he remained sick for 2 years. By that time he was ready to fall in with the advice he had spurned, and sure enough, when he had repaid the amount of money covering the thefts of his brothers, he became well again. It was then that old Zachariah Yerucham's fame spread among the peasants, and they nicknamed him the Old Saint. When old Zachariah Yerucham and his family left the village and settled in Nemirov, the villagers, Jew and Gentile, bought the house and kept it empty, but in good order. Whenever a couple married, they were brought into this house for luck. The garden was cared for by the whole village, who took turns at looking after it, and whatever grew there was distributed among the poor Jew and non-Jew alike. This, then, was the remarkable story that the young Zachariah Yerucham was now told. It made interesting hearing indeed. When the villagers heard that young Zachariah Yerucham was the grandson of their revered friend of blessed memory, the old saint, they paid him the honor they considered due to him. They offered him a beautiful house and garden, if only he would agree to stay and settle there. But Zachariah Yerucham would not stay. He had other plans. He wanted to be on his way. He traveled as far as Ludmir, where he spent some time in Torah discussion with the local Rav, the famous Gaon, Rabbi Shlomo Naftali, and also with his son, the brilliant Rabbi Nachman. From Ludmir, Zachariah Yerucham continued on his way until he reached Lutsk, where there was at that time a number of well-known scholars. That was just what Zachariah Yerucham was looking for from them he could derive greater and deeper knowledge of the Torah. One of these great scholars, at that time in Lutsk, was the renowned Gaon Rabbi Pesach Katz, whom people credited with magical powers. His son, Rabbi Moshe Cohen, was the community rabbi.